Dr. Mrs. Rachel, happy to see you. Do you remember the first time I came to the government house in Bayelsa for a program and we worshipped in the chapel? Do you remember a word that I gave at the altar while I was preaching? I was telling the chaplain, I said, there is somebody here that is, I can hear the cry of somebody, a woman crying for children. You remember that? And the chaplain whispered to my ears, he said, oh, Her Excellency is trusting God for children. Then, how many years was it at that time? 30 years married as First Lady, trusting God for children. I said, I didn't know that. I only know that as I'm standing here, the Lord is telling me there is a woman trusting God for the fruit, for crying that for children. And the prayer was prayed. I don't know what transpired later. But one thing I know is that you deliver.
God gave me quadruplets, 4.
Four at a go. I think did you come with them?
Yeah. They are the
quadruplets.
Yeah.
The first one is fully loaded. Full of. If you have 4 after 13 years, I think it covers the period. I don't know what transpired, but all I know is that God showed me and I saw it. And we declared. I don't know the details of the balance. What are you here for? For your own offering. Okay, so when the basket is passed, you will drop it. You are not hungry at all. Fully loaded. You have to show me your secret. Can we stand upon our feet and celebrate the King of Kings and celebrate the Lord of Lords, the I am that I am, the Rose of Sharon, the Lily of the Valley, the Lily of the Valley. After we dance for about 5 minutes, then the parents and the children will be coming to the altar. After we dance for about 5 minutes, they will be coming to the altar and we shall be celebrating. Be upstanding everywhere you are and let us celebrate the King of Kings and celebrate the Lord of Lords and celebrate the I am that I am and celebrate the Rose of Sharon, the Lily of the Valley. Let's go.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Please don't mind if I cry. Don't cry. The living cry.
Don't mind if I cry. The dead don't cry. Only the living can cry. It's a proverb. You will understand later.
You see, I want to thank you, Daddy, for answering the call. God has used you to save lives and preserve souls. On the 6th...
Because of this, together behind, or maybe we'll just go up here. Yes. Yes, go ahead. So, yeah, go on now.
Well, let me buy just... Okay. On the 6th of January this year, I received a call from an unknown number. And the young man said that he got my number from one of the projects that we did. That his elder brother saw the project and was interested in meeting me. So we agreed to meet the following day, being the 7th of this year, January. On that day, after praying in the morning...
Just a moment. I know you're a bit tensed up and under pressure, but he does manufacture of paint, and also supplies, and also paint buildings. So someone said, we saw your work elsewhere. He manufactures. And somewhere,
and my elder brother is having a project. We want you to come and look at the project so you can help us supply the paints and probably do the project.
That's correct. So when I decided to meet this young man who called me on the 7th, we agreed to see. When that day came, I went to one of my outlets, and one of my boys called me and said, Oga, what about that man that called you the previous day, on the 6th? I told him, oh, that's true. Let me call him to find out if the appointment was going to hold. So when I called him, he didn't pick. Much later, he called back. So when he called, he told me that he was on the bike, so he didn't know when I called him. I said, okay, so do we now see? He said we should meet up in one of those sites. So I called my boy, he came, we left. As we drove down to the place, on our way, I kept on having a feeling that I wasn't supposed to go on that journey.
I kept on having a feeling that I was not supposed to go on that journey. Even though it's a call to come and do business, we have a project for you, but I kept having a feeling this is not something to go for.
Exactly. Being that this is the beginning of the year, I mean, that kind of project should excite somebody. But I wasn't excited. So as we were driving down to the place, I kept on losing my peace. Then I prayed earnestly. I prayed in the spirit. Then my boy, I looked at him to know whether he was feeling the way I was feeling. He didn't know what was happening within me. Then very close to that place, there was a particular issue that happened in Port Harcourt about a young man who took his boys to site. Then they killed him and took about 700,000 from him. So that picture played right in front of me. I said, what kind of thing is this?
That picture played in front of him.
So when we finally
That's called word of knowledge.
When we finally got to the place, I called the young man. Where are you now? We are here. He now cited me from afar. He beckoned on me to come. When I got to the place, I parked my vehicle. I asked him, where are the projects? He showed me two projects. And I looked at it. I said, these projects are not ready for us to work on. He said, just get the estimate by the 27th of January. This January, my brother was going to do wedding, so he could just come. I told my boy to go ahead and take the estimate. Then I felt like running away from the place, driving and running away. I said, what will I say that is pursuing me? What if they shoot me? I said, okay, let me just go. So while my boy went to take the estimate, I joined him. Then when he went, after taking the estimate of the front of the building, side of the building, then he went to the back of the building. Then I was led to go and meet him there. When I got there, the young man who engaged me on call started to laugh. I was wondering why the laughter. Suddenly, he pulled up his clothes like this and brought out gun. When he brought out the gun,
he started laughing, pulled out his cloth like this, and brought out gun. That is, come, we have a project for you to implement. Mind you, he was losing his peace on the way going. Even if it is 100 billion, if you lost your peace, don't make a move. The picture flashed past him of how a man was invited in River State with his boys for a project, and then they killed him, collected money from him, and so on. That picture flashed even before him. That is, God was saying, don't move, don't move, don't go. This is the kind of thing that it just flashed, but he kept on going. But God is merciful, and he brought out his gun. Go ahead from there.
So when he pulled out the gun and told me that if I move any move, I will be a dead man. I said, what happened? Then they surrendered us, tied our hands backwards. One of them came out with a very long machete, very long and sharp. They started to beat us. Lo and behold, two other persons came up. And one of them was my former worker, who was the kingpin of this gang.
Hello? One of them, you have not heard anything yet. Worker that worked for him in the factory, that worked for him in the manufacturing and the job, was the one who sold him to them. Now go ahead.
So when he came up, I looked at him. I called him by his name. I told him that I've been looking for you. Each time I got project to do, I looked for you to give. I have not been seeing you. He told me, no. I'm no longer into that kind of work. What I now do is kidnapping and hired assassination.
That is, he's looking at him in the face. No, I'm not into the kind of work you're talking about. I'm now a kidnapper and a hired assassin. He's telling him in his face in that place. He's telling his Oga, my work now is work of kidnapping and hired assassination.
So when he told me that, though normally it doesn't work for me in the fact, what for me is only when you have project to paint, I give him that kind of contract. So when he now looked at me, I told him, he said I should bring 5 million. If minus 1 naira, I will not be a living person.
Himself telling you, that is, boy telling Oga, your amount is 5 million. If 1 naira is less, you are a dead man. He's telling him.
So I told him that, I mean, the kind of economy we are in now, there are no money anywhere. So how can you say there are no money? He pointed some key project that I did. He's
mentioning, you did this project, you did that project, you did that project. How can you say you don't have money?
How can you say you don't have money? And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? He now said, I have told you. That's okay. Where is your key? Where car key? I gave him. They collected my phones and everything. So the next thing he did was that he said that one of them masked himself, and he told him to mask himself that this guy will not be able to live to tell the story. That they were going to kill me.
Don't need to cover your face. Remove your face. You won't live to go and tell anybody any story.
But when he said that, I didn't lose my peace. Because the Bible said that who is it that said the thing and it cometh to pass? When the Lord commanded it not. That overwhelmed me like that. Then I burst and started to speak praying in tongues. Started to speak. The more they beat me, the more I spoke in tongue. The more they beat me, I spoke in tongue. The guy said, okay. You be like say, you be pastor, Abi. I said, well, I'm not a pastor. My minister with dunamis by God's grace. And I said, what's going to happen is that why the other guy had gone to with my ATM, and he told me that if that guy went to the ATM or POS and discovered that I gave them wrong ATM pin, I was going to be in a very big mess. I said, I couldn't have given you wrong pins. That's my ATM. So they now went and told the guy to move my vehicle where I parked it, and went straight and go and park inside the deeper part of the forest. So while the guy went there, they moved up from that first location to the second location. When we got there, they beat us mercilessly. Serious beating. Even the very shoe I was wearing that day, the guy pulled it off. They started to share my property while I was in the forest with them, one of my workers. By the time it got dark around 6 o'clock, they moved up from that particular place, right where I parked my vehicle, where they parked my vehicle in the forest. My side vehicle is such that has like this hillocks that has container. So they opened the container and pushed us inside and tied us hand backwards. They now moved us from that point, like 15 minutes to the road, then on the road 20 minutes, back inside another forest. When they got there, they now put us down and said, where is the money? I said, I don't have any money. The one I had on me, collected. The one, with my ATM. He said, Joe, what? I said, okay. He said, if I make a call, okay, let me call my wife. I told her my wife is a student. She doesn't have money. She's a doctorate student. And I said, okay. He told us to kneel down and told his boys to shoot us, to kill us. The boys now said, okay, may waste more where that money can come out. Okay, and I said, okay, just give me the phone, let me make a call. Why the guy gave me the call to call my wife? Before my wife could reach me, I picked the call. I answered my wife. I told my wife that if he cannot bring 5 million within the next 72 hours.
Who picked the phone?
The kidnapper, the kingpin.
Was now talking to your
wife. Took
my
phone from my wife. And spoke to my wife that if you cannot bring 5 million within the next 72 hours, you'll never see your husband again. He has been kidnapped. My wife was like, this is not my husband's voice. So there and then, it wasn't up to 30 minutes.
They said he should bring 5 million within 72 hours.
That's what he told my wife.
All right.
Within 72 hours. So while that was happening, they were like, what is wrong? Let us kill this guy. Because even before that operation, they already agreed that they were going to make money from me, then kill me. That was the conclusion. So when the guy now told the boy to, after they must have dragged within themselves, okay.
Because he knows somebody among them who didn't hide himself, so there's no need for him to leave. Because if he leaves, all of them will be found. So no need to make, the man introduced himself to him because he knows they will kill him. I'm sure you understand that. Yeah.
So while we were there, he ordered one of the boys to shoot us.
Has the 72 hours reached?
Sir, it wasn't up to even 10 minutes. They were in a hurry, sir.
Tell your wife you should bring money within 72 hours, otherwise your husband is dead. Then 10 minutes later, they ordered their shooting. Not 1 hour. Evil.
So why they put gun and shot my boy in the head?
Hello?
Then, at the sight and the sound of that gun on my boy's head, of course, my boy's hand were still tied backwards. They're losing my hand because I needed to make call. Now, why they shot my boy in the head? Myself, the sound of that gun on my boy, of course, I was lying down begging here. I don't know. The invisible hand of God snapped my hand up like this, threw me up to the height of a standing man like this pastor, very tall person, threw me up to that height. Then I turned like this to the height of a tall, very tall man and landed somewhere like maybe where that brother is standing. As I was landing there, shout of Jesus, the bullet landed on my tummy. As I landed with my 2 feet, my intestine just bulged out like that. So when
You have the phone?
The pictures are there. The ICT have the pictures.
I'd like you to. That is the man standing there. It is this man standing there whose intestine you are seeing up there. That is the level of disaster in this country.
So
He landed, palm, intestines out.
So when I landed, my intestine poured out. Of course, it was as if they agreed that when they shoot us, they would drive away with my vehicle. And one of them told me that, Oga, this is your motor today, don't become my own, so don't talk about it again. Of course, that was not my concern. Now, when they shot out and they drove out, I tried to move. The more I tried to move, the more my intestines were unfolding.
Peristaltic, movement was on. And all the sound is on.
Exactly. And the pain, the attendant pain of that night, Hamatan breeze of that night, the pain was so much. Then I moved like from here to where that brother is standing.
With intestine out.
Inside this, then when I got there, I lost so much energy and fluid and blood, and I fell down. While I was there, I started to remind God about all the declarations coming out from this altar. That pastor said we shall not die like chicken. He said, the number of your days you shall fulfill. He said there shall be no loss. But the one that got me more particular about was that you shall not die like chicken. I told God, if you say I will not die like chicken, what is the meaning of this? God told me that if you die like chicken, your wife will not see you. Your children will not see you. Nobody will see your dead body. God now asked me, is that what you want? I said, no. Then I started to pray. While I was praying, that my brother was shot in the head. It was as if spirit overrode him. A kind of energy entered the guy.
He said he saw something like a mist enveloped the man that was shot in the head.
Where he was lying lifeless, because I was calling his name. He didn't answer me. But at that point, when I was remembering those declarations and emphasizing and forcefully declaring them, that spirit, that kind of being entered the young man. The guy just got energized. When the guy got energized, when he got energized, he started to call my name, and I called him, are you alive? He said, where are you? Then he managed to come to where I was. Of course, his hands were still tied backwards. I used my elbow to support the intestine from coming out the mouth. Then where I was there, I had to hold him. Then when he told me, Oga, let us go and leave this place. So let's try and leave it. I said, where are we going? I cannot move. And I told him, okay, take the other road where I can see.
Somebody that was shot in the head is now moving.
I told him, okay, what are you going to do? Let's try and take the other road and see whether you can be able to connect main road. After like 20 minutes, he came back. Before he came back, I thought he died. Because anytime I sent him to go and look for something, if he didn't come back, I felt he died there. So while he left, I remember one of the songs of senior pastor, that God should be the way, that God should make a way. I was singing that song, God make a way for me, God be a way. Father, I remember the testimonies that I have heard from this altar of that particular lady who was kidnapped, then was catapulted among the kidnappers to the express where the army checkpoint was. I was telling God, as a minister in the commission, I've been able to handle my microphone and harvested testimonies. If these testimonies are not make-believe, if they are real, Father, manifest yourself. I was engaging God on those levels. While I was there, God, I don't know the kind of energy that entered me. And when the guy finally came back, I told him, okay, take the other road. When we went out, I heard a bike or a car passed Possibly there's road there. When the guy now went back, we got to that place. And I told him, okay, go and find other police station or any medical center so we can go. When he left again, I didn't see him. For like 10 minutes, I thought he died. So while I was there, that only me, in that night, around that 8 p.m., by the roadside, nobody to help. I started to pray in the spirit. With the small energy I had. Then a car was driving towards me. I felt it was my vehicle that those guys were using to come and check whether I was still there. Possibly to finish what they started. I just managed. I told myself, whatever happened, let it be. But I will not die like chicken. While I was on the floor, I raised one of my hands like that. I was waving like this. Then one of my legs, I was waving so that people could see me by the roadside and by the bush side, by the road. So while I was in that condition, the people, they stopped by and said, what is that man doing there? And I told them I was kidnapped and shot. My baby taken away. Please, they should help me. They looked at me and shot in the sky. And went away. I was like, what is happening? Is it war front or something? Maybe they went to draw one of their guys, one of all these rich men around. So in 10 minutes time, while they were coming back, they discovered that I was still there. They flashlight and saw my intestine out, blood, everything. They said, this guy is real. Let's help this guy. They now managed and told me that, oh, God, we're not going to help you. Let us call vigilante for you. So why they sent for vigilante, when vigilante came, say, oh, God, we're not going to touch you. If we touch you, you go die for our hand. Police go say, I will kill you. And I said, please help me, save my life. When they finally called the police to come, and police came, why police managed to put me in the vehicle, as we were going to the hospital, they discovered that my boy, the man said he didn't have enough food. The policeman said he didn't have enough food in the car. So he ran back to buy black market. Then, that my boy that left to go and look for means, saw the police vehicle and stopped to go and tell them that his guy was shot, that we were shot. Now this guy had blood all over him. I didn't know how he got the energy to move around like that. So while we were there, the guy now came. While he was trying to explain to the police officer, I overheard his voice while I was in the car, the police car. The man told me, okay, is that your boy? I said, yes. The guy now joined us. By the time we got to the first hospital, they rejected us. A very big hospital. They said, no, we cannot touch this one. This one will die here. Then we now left again to another big hospital. Before we got there, my wife had gotten contact because I called my wife through the vigilante people. They were now looking for me. My wife had called my pastor, my location, Pastor Moses tomorrow. So by the time all of this kind of thing happened, by the time they could now get, I told my wife, look, my wife now called one of my friends who's just a medical doctor. But he has a hospital in that area, again, but he was in US. So by the time the man told my wife that, I hope he was not shot in the tummy. My wife said he had not seen me, didn't know where I was shot. When my wife got to know that it was tummy I was shot, my wife felt like, she almost fainted. So when we finally got to that hospital where I got medical help, they managed, because they actually judged me, but they managed to just give me drip and give me blood. From there, we now moved to a specialist hospital in that location. And this happened between 7 o'clock when they shot me to about 2:30 something a.m.
Intestines out for 7 hours. That's medically speaking.
8 hours, sir.
8 hours. I'm sure that there are doctors who are in the house here. That's unthinkable. That you just be thinking of, he's gone. He is gone. He's gone. The reason why God packaged the intestine in the tummy is so that it doesn't interact with the atmosphere. Oh yeah, it's gone. It's gone. 8 hours of intestines out. Peritonitis, it's gone. Please don't show it again. There are some people who can't cope. Are you okay if they don't show it again? I think it's enough. Yes.
So when we finally go to that specialist hospital, when the doctor saw me, they were, as a matter of fact, the doctors on duty that night were not much. So they felt like, no, this guy, what are we going to do? Before they even attended to me, they started to call their colleagues that there's an emergency here, that this guy cannot. So I don't know. There's something about God here. I don't know. He follows us anywhere we go. When we got there, when I was rushed to the hospital, all the doctors, some of them, of course, they had a stressful day. They didn't want to pick their calls. The doctors went to their colleagues using vehicle to go and pick them.
Using vehicle to.
Like
now, at
taxi.
this point, you can mention the hospital for the sake of because of,
Daddy, you are going to pray for doctors.
I'm going to pray for doctors.
Daddy.
If I'm to go to school again, I'll be doctor again. Are you comfortable with mentioning the hospital? Yes, I don't mind.
Irua Specialist Hospital.
Irua Specialist Hospital. Anybody from that area here? Irua Specialist Hospital.
So when we got there, the doctors went to go and bring
And
their...
that is also important for the authentication of this testimony. Yes.
When they had to go and be getting their fellow doctors to come and attend to my situation. By the time they got there were about 13 consultants working on me that night.
13 consultants working. You have consultants
With nurses. Everybody working.
all on one spot.
So by the time they were done, they were not sure that they were not even sure.
Can you see the miracle of medicine? That is the same abdomen that had the intestine out, had a very big laparotomy there, and then the whole thing neatly tucked back in. Can you see? Can you see the miracle? That is very powerful suture in there. I think that's mattress suture in there. Very powerful. Go ahead.
So when by the time they came and they were done with the surgery and they wheeled me to the wards, the doctors were coming one after the other to see whether these guys made it. Then of course, even before we got to the hospital, because my resident pastor and the pastor of Pastor Moses and Pastor Emmanuel Adejo from many of them came around. They stayed with me all through the night with prayer, and I think they contacted our senior pastor. So much prayers were going on. By the time they finished and wheeled me to the ward, doctors were coming to see whether the guy made it. One after that, they were coming to check on me. They were even calling me hero. I said, no, don't call me hero. Jesus is the hero. At the end of the day, they said, Oga, you are going to be here for more than 6 months. But by the time, of course, I think on the 10th or so, we started our fasting in the commission. I was not able to follow the fasting, but I connected live. I connected everything that was happening. I was connected. So we are praying. Many of the miracles, senior pastor was talking about healing and all of that. God used the face of the servant to visit me, and miracles happened on my body.
That's visiting, divine encounters while he was there.
So much. There was something that happened in particular. Now, when they shot me on the tummy, then the bullet penetrated my thigh here and entered and shattered one of my testes. Now, when the doctors saw me, of course, they didn't want to talk about those. They wanted to save the life first before any other thing. At the end of the day, they discovered that my testes had swollen so much that I couldn't stand like a normal standing person. They now made me to undergo scrotal elevation and all manner of things. Because it was not working, they said, okay, we're going to book you for operation to remove one of your testes. Now, senior pastor on that particular day, one of the days of the fasting, he said, restoration of everything that the devil has taken. Whoever has lost anything, many cases were mentioned like that, and I kid him. Then one of my sisters, a professor, who's also always in the spirit, she's always on fire with the husband, a professor too. When they called me that night, I told them what happened. They said, no, they didn't want me to finish the statement I was making. They declared that there shall be no loss, and that nothing shall be removed. And I remember what the pastor always tell us here, that he has been confirmed that God has spare parts in places waiting for his children to replace them. I keyed into that word that night. By the time those doctors came, they said, it's as if this thing is changing, Okay, what's going to happen now is that, oh God, we're not going to operate you again. You're going to go and run a scan. But meanwhile, before then I had run a scan. The scan said there was no blood flowing, that it was dead. I was going to operate and it will be removed. They counseled me and my wife and everybody. But after that declaration of that day, they discovered that there was blood, a kind of movement, the traces of blood in the testes. Then they said, okay, don't worry, let us monitor you for some days. After that, within a week they came back, they discovered that everything has settled. There was no need for the surgery, everything settled. Everything intact. Powerful.
Everything intact, one testicle shattered, now it is returned back fully. Are you hearing something at all? It's double. The woman have 2 ovaries, men have 2 testicles. One was shattered by the gun. Blood supply cut off. They are meant to remove all the debris of it. No need to remove it anymore. It's returned back full-fledged blood flow, full-fledged testicle, 1, 2. Are you just sitting and looking like that? Take your seat.
There was something that happened. Why one of them, the king leader, that's the man who was my former worker, was supposed to be picked up by the security agent. When the security agent got to his house to pick the guy touched the wall and disappeared. So the man called me, said, Oga, did my IPO? He said, this kind of thing still exists. I said, what be that? He said, look at this young man, we came to pick him, only for him to touch the wall and disappeared. And I said, okay, now, since intelligence has failed you, we are going to deploy spiritual intelligence. And I called my pastor. My pastor told me, anytime they want to go for any arrest, I must let him know, so we can engage the mountain, the commission. So on one of the days, senior pastor was in Port Harcourt.
Port Harcourt Crusade.
Port Harcourt Crusade. My IPO called me that they are going to go and pick the guy somewhere, that they've stated the guy was somewhere. Meanwhile, when the guy left that location, he went to Lagos, he went to Ogun, he went to many places. Finally, when they got to where the guy was helpless. Because when I called my pastor that day, he was in Port Harcourt Crusade, he told me that the environment where he was at the time was going to go in, and the environment of power of God was going to go in, whatever forces they have, against any altar they have working against God's plan for this case will be shattered. I said amen. Why? After speaking with him, I dropped the call. It was not up to 2 hours. The man called me back that the guy has been picked up.
The guy has been picked up. The one working for him that led the people to kill him has been picked up. Their guy has been picked up.
Yes, sir.
Their native doctor has been picked up.
Yes, sir. And the man who supplies them, the armorer.
Oh, yeah, there's native doctor that prepares charm for them. And the person supplying their equipment. They are all, you can't touch lion Peking and live to tell the story. And in the name of Jesus, they shall not go free. Even though we are in a country where cases like this can disappear, they cannot go free. They are dead. They are dead. They are dead. I'm sure lawyers can tell us that. They are dead. The man is alive. His boy that was shot in the head is alive and normal.
Praise the Lord. Now, when I got to the police command, when they picked them, they wanted me to come around. When I got there, the commissioner of police looked at me. He said, Oga, how many heads you get?
How many heads you get?
I said, Oga, only one head I get. He said, no. I'm seeing 3 heads. The grace you carry is more than the grace of one person. The grace of 2, 3 powerful people is what you are carrying. As I looked at it, he said, Oga, I'm seeing 3 heads here. That people were shot on the leg, they died on the spot. For more than 8 hours, your intestines were out and you didn't die.
More than 8 hours, your intestine was out and you couldn't die.
They said that it was the grace that I carried was what sustained that my boy. That the grace over me was what kept that boy.
That's right.
So there are so many things that God did in that.
And the intestines was perforated in 8 places.
Exactly. The intestine had about 8 perforations, 8 holes that they had to work on them. Then my liver was slightly brushed. But none of everything is okay, no challenge whatsoever.
One hole is enough for death. Within 8 hours. Perforated 8 holes. Fecal peritonitis. Death. Stand up on your feet. That's why I wanted you to hear it. Was it all right you heard it today? So that you can move with audacity. That you cannot be killed just like chicken. Hey! Somebody say, I can't die just like chicken. Say, my life is not in the hands of a mortal man. My life is in the hands of God. I cannot die just like chicken. God delivers in different ways. For the other sister, on our Benin Expressway, she disappeared from the midst of the kidnapper and was found on the roadside. For this one, the Lord showed both the kidnapper and the devils that not everybody is killable. Do your worst and go. Let me show you what I can do. He laid on the ground. Come. From what he described to me, he laid on the ground with one hand supporting the intestine and the other hand lifted, waving with leg at vehicles. Please see me, I am here.
When the young man, the king leader, discovered that I was alive, he called my wife and told my wife, tell your husband, and he's staying there for coma, that God way in the serve, make it a serve and well. He said, that God way, say he never see. Say,
that is before his arrest.
Before his arrest?
Yes.
He said, that
because
God,
he was still in touch with his wife.
Exactly.
I hear say your husband they alive. That God when in the serve, make it whole and well.
Even when we went to preach of, they said, oh God, that God way. So there was one common denominator was here among everybody. That God way you they serve. I think they said that the God of dynamics that they serve. He said, make it they serve and well because even the Kenapa told me so many people that he has killed. In the forest, he was boasting and he was trying to make me understand that he was powerful. He said, so if I mention the name of the people, I don't want to. He said, so person behind his house, that man that he killed, I said, let me kill him. He was telling me people that he has killed, that I was not going to come alive. But God preserved me, sir.
He was boasting. Do you remember so and so person? I was the one. You heard the news of so and so person who was killed? I was the one. You heard? I was the one. I want to let you know you are not escaping. The kidnapper man told him that nobody under him has survived such assault. He told his wife, nobody has, not one person survived that kind of operation they did on him and he couldn't die. You are not killable. You are not wastable. The Bible says we overcome the devil by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. Can you lift up your hands and begin to invoke the seal of preservation upon your life, upon your family, upon your loved ones?